Yeah, it's better than Drano. Hey, let's get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 26th regular meeting of the Hood River White Salmon Bridge Authority. Taking a roll call, it looks like Arthur Babbitts is here, Grant Paulson's here, Catherine Thomas is on video, Jake Edwards is here in the room, Jake Anderson is in the room, Eric Wilson is in the room, and of course myself, Mike Fox. We missing anybody else that snuck in late or on the phone? We did hear that Mark Flaming was not going to be able to attend today. He's on business travel. And we did hear that Doug was going to call in, I believe. Not heard about the rest of them. But we do have a quorum. So we'll continue on. Is there any modifications, additions to the agenda? If not, could I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I move to approve the agenda as is.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So move forward. Item number 3, co-chair and committee appointments. I believe there's a motion on the table to amend the bylaws, section 2.4, election of officers to include potentially alternate commissioners.
What do you mean? There has been no motion yet.
Okay, you're right.
I'd be happy
We're
to
going
make
to
that
talk
motion
about
if
it.
you want to talk about it.
Yeah, let's
I will make
talk
that
about
motion so we can talk about it.
it. Okay. Second on the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
No.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Oh, discussion. You're right.
Now we talk.
Okay. Now go ahead. The idea is to maybe open up the chair and the co-chair positions. So we could have an alternate member of our commission serve as chair and co-chair.
Do we have the legal opinion yet on this?
We do not.
We talked to legal, he's supposed to be on, we are trying to.
Trying to find it. Okay.
Trying to get all of them. Okay, yeah, we're working on it right now.
Okay. So we could, if we want, we can proceed. If we are interested in doing this, we can proceed and do it, pending legal verification.
So the agenda says the recommended action was a motion to direct the governance committee to amend the bylaws section. So it was kind of, the motion was to direct it to go to the governance committee to make a recommendation.
Well, okay.
I'm just saying that's what was in there.
Sorry, the thought was that you all could take the motion and direct the governance committee to make the modifications to the bylaws pending legal concurrence with it.
But at any case, we could discuss.
Right, let's figure out how to do it.
There we go.
So give you a kind of a thought, opening this up to our alternates to be co-chairs, I think recognizes the importance that our alternates are providing to the authority. Even though they would not be able to vote, it is a recognition of their importance to our authority. It also, I think, provides them with maybe a future opportunity to, and they've already got it, to become a voting member as our voting staff moves on and evolves and so on.
So I think about, so what is the role of the chair or the co-chair? And it's like they're the facilitator of the meeting, the guardian of the public process, the face of the, at times, at rare times, the face of the organization. And, they can be introduced as, this is our chair, and, for whatever that means.
Signatory.
And that's what I was looking for. Thank you. And then the final thing is just that they have signatory authority. Out of those things, I can't think of any of those things that require the person to have a vote. So I would be in favor I think that that would be a good idea to broaden this. I don't know that it solves the problem of us finding someone who wants to do it, but it broadens the pool of people.
Increases the pool.
It
Yeah.
increases the pool, and I just don't see any negative to it. As we all learned last year, the Speaker of the House doesn't have to be a member of the House. So,
How about others' opinion?
I agree with Commissioner Babbitt's reasoning and logic as to why we would open the pool to alternates. Sitting in the chair, conducting the meeting, official title of commissioner or alternate does not necessarily bear weight upon calling the meeting or going through the motions, so to speak. So that there's other demands of the position, but whether you're a commissioner or alternate, that does not bear on the expectation of putting in the time to do the job.
Others?
I'd chime in, but it would start to sound really repetitive.
Okay. Does anybody have an opposing discussion?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So you've been chair. The chair role itself, do you see any additional demands that we haven't described, or what does the time demand look like from your perspective? And I know that you've both done a huge amount of other things which are not technically the chair role, but if you can separate out the chair role, how do you characterize it?
You want to go first?
I guess.
There's an example.
Nice try.
I would say you're right about the chair itself is really to help drive and manage and orchestrate this particular meeting. Outside of this meeting, what I've seen, the chair is looked upon by the community, by Federal Highways, by ODOT, by others as the voice of our authority. I think I would say that's the limit. Now, where we've been the last couple of years or several years getting this thing started, I think the co-chairs have probably done a little more than what we probably all think about. But I think we're in a position now where we've got 2 contractors on board. They're working very well. We've got our biggest challenge right now, at least the top 3, is funding. So the chair is going to be looked at along with the authority of trying to address attracting funding from a leadership point of view, getting our permits. The permits are being driven or really watched closely by some of the subcommittees. But the chair is going to be, I would think, would be expected to have a finger on the pulse of that and the role of being an overall speaker or an advocate for the organization. And then being able to understand and communicate the other big issues that are impacting our project. In my opinion, it's the North Shore, getting that really resolved, how Kiewit's gonna really work that area. Those are the current things. I think the next big step is assuming positively that we're going to get funding. Then we're going to be, I believe, as a group, talking about accelerating construction and what do we have to do to get the deal struck. And that's not for the chair to decide, but the chair has got to kind of be aware of it and not necessarily pushing, but certainly understand and advocate getting done with it and pushing it on. That's my opinion.
So let me ask another question then. This may be for Dan. Can any of you think of a situation in which the people that you're talking to in that role, you describe federal highways, et cetera, that they would either A, know, or B, care whether you were a voting member of the body.
I agree.
Great. I've exhausted the possible objections I can think of.
I think it's more important that the chair come across that they're knowledgeable and can talk to these outside agencies with some level of command of the information.
I think the only thing that they would expect is that they have like signatory authority.
Right.
Right. And as long as they have that signatory.
That's what we find out from Mark.
Yeah, I think they understand that there's a board making the decisions. So.
Final last minute discussion.
I think I said this last time when we brought this up, so I'll just say it one more time since we're in the discussion. But I think that one of the things that I have been impressed with what we've been able to accomplish over the last 2 years is that we have a group of experts with wildly diverse experience and tools that they can bring to this. I think we've done a really good job of tapping people for what they're good at and really putting that into the authority. And I think being able to continue to do that regardless of who is the chair and kind of hurting that group, I think is the strength of our organization. So I don't see a downside to moving who is making sure that group is well utilized is a problem.
So I would, since it sounds like we're heading towards saying yes.
Mark sent me an email back.
Okay.
If I could just read it real quick. So he says, under the current bylaws, only a director and not an alternate may be appointed co-chair. Alternates may act as directors only when directors are absent or have a conflict of interest.
Okay, the key word is current.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to suggest an amendment to my motion to request staff to prepare any such amendments as are necessary in order to effectuate the allowance of alternates to serve the role as chair or co-chair. Need a second on that.
I would move my second to include that.
And then we have to vote on that first and then vote on the original.
Yeah, so could we have a vote of the amended?
The vote on the amendment.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And then we need to vote on the original measure.
Yes, so the original measure was
The measure as amended now. So what we just did is we amended what's on the floor. So what's now on the floor is to direct staff to prepare such amendments as are necessary to whatever documents are required to effectuate the change so that the chair and co-chair can be alternates, or alternates can serve as chair or co-chair.
So what's the basis one then we have to vote on?
That's what we have to vote on now. That's now what we voted on. What we voted before was to put that on the floor. Now it's on the floor. Now we can vote on it.
Okay, so could I have a motion?
No, it's.
Already did.
Yeah, we just need to vote.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. So the way I understand, let me make sure I understand it.
Great.
We're directing staff to adjust our documents that would allow us to name chairs and co-chairs to come from the alternate population. They would not be able to vote unless their corresponding or the corresponding voting member was absent, as they do today. And we proceed with that. And then that revised document gets reviewed by legal counsel to make sure that it's proper. But we're directing legal counsel to make it proper. This is our desire.
We're directing them to prepare the documents so that we can then vote on making this whole thing happen.
Okay. So a question there, our next step to me is that we want to talk about nominees and people that would like to become the co-chairs. And should we have an open discussion here that regardless of whether you're a voting member or a non-voting member, we talk about it. If we believe that a non-voting member is the selection that we want to make, then what do we do about that non-voting member until such time as this document gets?
We can't act until that happens.
Right. Now, if we see that we have two voting members that we all feel should be chairs and co-chairs, we can go ahead and make that decision today. But we still want to give we're giving the direction to staff to modify the document anyway, that if we don't use it today, we may use it down the road.
And prepare the modified documents for our
For us to vote on.
action.
Is that the way you guys see it as well?
Yeah, we can talk about anything you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so with that in mind, let's open up a discussion for co-chairs. And here's the embarrassing moment. Who wants to be co-chair?
I think a better way to do this is open up nominations.
He's done this before.
If you're opening up nominations, I would nominate Eric Wilson to be the chair from the Washington side. Now you have to ask if there's any other nominations.
Is there any other nominations from the Washington side?
Let's review who we have on
I'm
Washington.
not sure. We're the only two here, so I'm not sure. I feel
No one else here from Washington side, but well, Jake is, and there's nothing saying that Jake should not be renominated.
Other than I just nominated him.
He can nominate you.
There, right? So let's.
Somebody else.
Oh,
The nomination could come from Oregon for the
Yeah.
Washington.
Yeah, I know. I just
we all.
to be polite to allow.
I kind of like the nomination of Eric. I think Jake has done an absolute outstanding job the last several years since we've formed this entity. And before that on the bi-state working group. I think my opinion, excellent job. It's time to step back a little bit and let somebody else take over some responsibility and not relax, but relax.
Is that a closing of the nominations?
Yes.
No, you can't.
No.
No.
Is there any other comments, any other nominations for Washington side?
I'll comment. I do like the idea of rotating, as I explained before, having no reflection on how you did the job. I just think it's a good idea that we don't let it sit in one place too long, because then it'll never leave that person, right? So you're smart in nominating somebody else, and I agree with that. I think Eric's done a great job. I would love to see Eric in that role, but the question would be, is Eric willing to do that? That is an important question.
Within the context of the discussions that we've had, that it is, that leadership position that is kind of making sure things are moving forward. I would be willing to take on that role. I preface that with my previous, there are people that are expert in the room that will continue to do what they do so well. And I'm happy to help keep that organized.
And it might even improve their ability to do that if they don't have to also run
Yes.
meetings.
So yes, I would be willing to serve that.
Thank you very much.
So can we, or should we go ahead and take a vote on the Washington co-chair?
Yeah.
If I could I have I guess
I
we
think you
want a
have a nomination,
motion.
so it's already a motion. You don't need a
Okay.
motion to have a nomination.
Could we have a vote to make Eric the co-chair from Washington?
Aye.
Effectively immediately.
Aye.
Right?
Thank you for putting that in there.
Is there any concern that we're missing two representatives from Washington for this vote?
No, I think Doug's online as iPhone.
Okay.
Okay.
Doug, that's you?
Yes, it took me a second to get off mute, but yes, that's me.
No,
I don't think we got a full vote. Could we go ahead and please?
Yeah, we all voted.
Did we?
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't
You
hear
can have-
everybody on the Oregon side as well.
yeah, no, we all
Okay.
voted.
Okay, congratulations or condolences, whichever fit. Eric, you're
I
it.
think it
buddy.
depends on what day it is.
Okay, let's talk about the Oregon side now. We have nominations, or would anybody like to step forward? And I think it's basically, we're talking about,
In case you're wondering, that's Arthur Grant. And
Well, if we have alternates, we have Catherine.
yeah,
here.
so it's Arthur, Grant,
That's a-
Catherine, Nate, or Jake.
So I don't guess that's two of us have each have a one solid strike against us. I'm guessing, and you can say no. For me, I will be unable for the foreseeable future to travel very much because of family care issues. And you were about to have another child.
I'm fine.
So you're fine.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to nominate you. You're fine.
that's up to you.
I nominate Grant.
Great.
Obviously, we haven't rehearsed this.
We're all entertained though.
As long as
Yeah, hi, public, I'm having a kid. Everybody else knew. Yeah. My wife said it, not me. News for everybody at home. Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to add my 2 cents to this. First off, I think Grant would be excellent. But I think we have another person that would be equally good, and I would nominate Catherine Thomas for that.
Great.
Both of you, what's really good about this organization, we're deep. We can in fact have more than one well-qualified individual. So I would just like to offer up, I think Catherine also would be an excellent choice. Granted, she's going to be back here in the June, July timeframe. But we could, I think it is Washington's turn for 26 to be the first chair, if you will.
Right.
And Catherine would be back for 27 if that's what we wanted to do. Catherine has been part of the ENC committee all of this time. She's been extremely instrumental in all of the negotiations with the tribes. She's involved in tolling, being our representative there. So I think we should consider both individual. Both of them are well qualified. Yeah, Mike.
you need to get both of them to accept.
Yeah. We can skip that.
Okay, so let's go. Catherine, would you accept such a assignment if voted in the positive?
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be nominated. I think Grant is, I'm sorry if you can hear a 2-year-old screaming in the background. He was playing on the floor and just got removed from the room. So I would be honored to be in the role if that is where we go. But I do think that Grant has a really solid view of where the finances are currently and understands governance at a higher level than I may at this time. Just because I'm newer to the whole government agency, if you will. But whatever the bridge needs to get built, I would be more than happy to serve.
Would you serve?
Yes.
I would be concerned about someone trying to run this meeting remotely. Having done that with many ODOT meetings that I have to run, it's not fun. But given that Catherine is going to be back before very long, so we're not talking about a lot of meetings, and Eric would be running those meetings unless something happened to Eric. So I don't think that would be a valid concern on side of Catherine. And I've seen both of them in action in meetings and believe that they both understand the role of the chair and would be capable of being chair. So I am fine with either. I'm, less concerned about what each of them, their expertise. That almost weighs against it, that I'd rather have someone who has less other jobs, but I think that both of them are entangled at an equal level in the details of this program. So
I see them very, very equal.
yeah, I would choose the least busy of them for chair, but I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So just as a point of order, I don't think you have a choice. You can either table this motion until the next meeting or until we update it, or Catherine is not eligible. And so we currently already took a motion and voted on the one co-chair.
Right, because technically the nomination of Catherine wasn't valid because she's not
Correct.
to serve with the current bylaws.
Yes.
So a suggestion, Catherine, if I'll set this up.
While groping around in the dark here, I think it's okay.
This is normal.
How do you feel about Catherine? Because of where we are on our governance document as it is, we take the vote and hold you off till the next round of this happens, which is a couple of years from now. Or if one of these individuals moves on, hits the lottery, whatever. Or we could go ahead and wait until the next meeting. Hopefully we've got feedback from the lawyer and all the papers done and we can take that action. And then we have the ability to take the vote on the two individuals and go
I
forward.
suspect that I could be wrong on this, but I suspect that the action will require action by the of the parties to the CFA, the Commission Formation Agreement. It almost caught me on that. So I think that it may be several meetings before we're able to act if we go that route. So what I'd point out, do you think I'm wrong, Jake?
I think the bylaws are internal and this is on the bylaws.
I don't think that the Commission Formation says something about this.
I don't think it did. That's what.
That was my impression for pushing all of this as well. It's within our.
I guess my point is that the earlier motion we took on inspecting the bylaws and moving forward with that is valid, whether it is useful today or whether it's useful in 2 years when we do this again. So I think it's a good move to make, and whether or not we use it today, I'm fine with it. I'd be fine with moving forward today and choosing Grant as the chair. And but
how about if we do that of the voting members that we have, and when there's not a member here, an alternate, we take a vote on the two individuals. And if Grant wins out, it's an easy pick. If
technically we don't have a nomination.
Yeah,
we would need the vote that we could have now would be a vote to table this motion, which would effectively be a vote to leave it to the next meeting to discuss it. Otherwise, the only nomination we have is Grant, and we should go forward and elect him. So it would be vote on tabling. So you could make that motion, or someone could make that motion to table this, and that could be a test of the same concept.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, Catherine.
Sorry, I'd unmute a different computer. I think that maybe, as I've said in the past, we should move forward and not delay. And I think it's an honor just to be nominated. I think Grant is a fantastic choice, and I don't think there's any reason to delay whatsoever. I think you have two great candidates, and I think that's pretty. Sorry, I didn't mean to say. I think you have a great candidate, and I'm not even a candidate at this point. So I think that we should move forward and sort of get this, not get it over with, but let's not stop, for momentum over some silly, title, if you will, because I think no matter who's the chair on this team, we have a great team and we all kind of give and work, well
And
together.
I personally agree with you, as well. So what would make it very easy for us
If you
Catherine, if you would-
nominations,
Yeah, that's all you have to do. But I think that Catherine just demonstrated a superior understanding of Robert's Rules of Order, which makes her even more qualified. But and we'll get to do those nominations and see if anyone objects to that.
did I hear you, Catherine, say you're willing to remove yourself from
She's not-
nominations?
She's not eliminated, so she doesn't have to do that.
Okay.
She's
It's simply a motion.
agreeing anyway.
Yeah.
It's basically a call for
Go ahead and
question.
take the
It's
vote on
it's a call for question.
So make a motion.
Call for question. And you guys can say, you can second, and we can vote on that, and then we can move forward.
he
But
could
it
have
closes debate.
just closed the nominations.
He could have, but he didn't.
Floor is the nomination. Okay, so let's take a vote
Yep,
for Grant.
yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And Mark, I'm sorry, not Mark. Doug, did you vote? You're on mute, Doug.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, aye.
Okay. It's unanimous. So congratulations. Condolences as well, whatever fits. As being the new co-chair, and your term would be 2027.
January next year.
Yeah. Okay.
Until I can make
Is there any motion that needs to happen on who's the first co-chair?
No, because that's in the bylaws.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to take action to alter that. I just want to point out, I've been, in a lot of bodies like this, and this particular role, the role of choosing chairs and co-chairs, is always the one that people get most confused in, because you do it once every couple of years, and Robert's rules are messy. Yeah, so
I'm glad you're here.
don't feel bad.
You don't.
Good.
Get us back up to speed.
So you gonna kick him out of his seat, or are you gonna stay there?
No, I'm not moving any.
So is he
He's now,
effective right now?
Immediately.
Yeah.
No, sit down, sit down.
That's his first step.
You notice how fast it went like that?
Yeah, because we forgot to rotate too.
So you get to help me through here, so cool, but so I think we're on item 3C, committee assignments. And that is in the packet, and I can find it here.
Page 8.
I think what we're looking for is just a discussion to talk about committees and committee membership, and I think the question is everybody in the right spot or not?
So, here, we did have a request from Mark Flaming that he would like to be on the governance committee if he could. I'm not sure if he's appointed to any committee yet.
he's on the planning and finance.
Planning and finance.
Okay, so he would like to be in the governance committee. And unfortunately, he's not here today to explain all of that, but he has requested that. But because of the quorum rules, that would require one of either Doug, myself, or Jake to move off of that committee onto a different committee. So I'll put that out there.
So now we know why we're talking about it. So now we know why we're talking about it.
I think
It's the quorum issue.
Oh, the reason we have to have a discussion, yeah.
Yeah.
The bylaws say that we have to, that every 2 years we appoint people on committees, but we can't just add him without creating.
Okay,
I
so
would suggest that you open up a discussion that, does anybody on the various committees want to make a move? To a different committee.
So, I mean, that's the discussion.
This is Doug, and I'm happy to move or do something different if that benefits the group.
Catherine has her hand raised, Chair.
Catherine?
I also just want to recognize that our chairs are on two very active committees. And so if our chairs wanted to potentially consider moving to a different committee, or maybe not be the chair of, let's just say hypothetically, funding and finance, because of their new chair role, that they wanted some assistance, I would gladly be moved anywhere as needed to assist the team.
Catherine's on the ENC.
Thank you, Catherine. Is there,
Because if we allowed Mark to join the governance committee, that would allow Doug to join the funding and finance.
And you have one vacancy on the communications committee.
Oh, okay.
Currently, it's Jake Edwards and Nate are the only two on the communications committee. There is a vacancy.
Catherine, do you have a committee you'd like to be on?
Well, I was just trying to offer assistance to the funding and finance chair and make sure that he has, if he wanted to kind of move off that committee into a different one, you know, I would be gladly moved to whichever committee is needed, communications or funding and finance. I'm also very happy to stay with engineering and construction, to be clear, but just want to make sure that, you know, roles are distributed as appropriate. And I think Grant's done, you know, that's a lot of work there. So
one other thing to note, I believe the rules show that the committee itself votes on who the chairs are. We don't. As an authority.
So for the funding and finance committee, the two people in my knowledge, and I may be missing someone, but Mark and Grant are the two people who have the most academic background and most general knowledge in that area. Is it?
And Ben.
Oh, and Ben, that's right. That's right. Ben's on that committee.
Yeah,
Okay.
the three that are on it.
Oh, great. Okay. So we have a lot of strength there, so we can afford one of them to either move off or force one of the others to be the chair is another option, right? You seem more excited about not being the chair.
We will discuss that at the meeting.
I guess right now you're just looking at who do you want to move within committees, and then the committees will determine who the chairs are.
right, yeah. Right. And I guess, I mean, unfortunately, Mark's not here, but Mark had a desire for governance.
Yep.
Is he looking to get out of the funding and finance, or was he looking to be in both? Is kind of part of my other question.
I can't speak for him. That's an interesting problem, because in terms of being on both, we really don't have room for any of us to be on both because of the quorum problem.
Unless somebody's not on it. Right now you can do it because you have a vacancy, but once you fill that vacancy, you've got the problem back.
Just a thought, if Mark goes to governance and Doug moves someplace else and Catherine goes to funding, that means we've got a hole in communications and engineering.
For Doug to do
So that'll be the option.
Doug would go to one of those places.
It's
Doug, do you have an opinion of which one you'd rather go to?
Nope. Works either way.
So the big question is whether did Mark understand that he was moving off of finance and doing this?
I guess that's
He didn't say to me either.
so we kind of know what the issues are, and maybe the next step is really to have a more in-depth discussion with Mark about.
We don't have to make changes today. We can always
Right.
delay the changes. We've aired the issue. We could just delay it until next meeting.
Unless you have, yeah. I just felt like you had one commissioner had that not one that is here that might want to do something different that you could take an action on.
Are you talking about Catherine?
Yes.
What I understood was Catherine was willing to move to facilitate this, but we don't know what we're facilitating.
Okay.
I think I've also heard Catherine in the past express some interest in the communications committee as well. And for watching her in DC, I don't doubt she would be very good at it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I wouldn't mind being on either finance or the ENC committee. which, if Mark were on governance, would enable that also.
Yeah.
So
We switch you with him.
some options. What's that?
Switch you and him.
Possibly.
It's interesting.
I don't have a strong opinion on any of this, but just throwing out some possibilities.
Yeah. So maybe what we ought to do is wait until we can have a more in-depth conversation with Mark about what he is looking to achieve. We know we have some options. There's kind of one situation that might create I just lost the word, but too many authority members on one quorum problem.
So we still have an open alternate seat for
Communications.
no
For Washington.
Washington.
State of Washington.
Clicktack County. Do we know when they're likely to fill that?
I had a conversation with the county commissioner for this district for the meeting, and they are actively
So
want to fill that role.
one course of action might be to wait until that position is filled, since that's going to create another question for us. So we could save some time by simply leaving it as is until that happens.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on this issue? Do we need to take a motion to table it?
You
Or
have a
just-
motion, so you can just move on.
Okay,
Yeah, there's no motion on the floor.
just move on. Figure out how to navigate the document here so I can do it a little more seamlessly. So that gets us to approval of the meeting minutes from January 12th.
I moved.
A second motion.
Is there any discussion?
I have a
tiny
question.
little bit.
Sorry.
Yeah, one tiny little bit. When I looked at the notes this time, it kind of really hit me that the notes are very, very cryptic on detail. As an example, I was looking at ENC report out from Eric last time, and the only thing that the report says is Eric gave a report. That's it. And if everybody's okay with that, I'm okay with it.
Well, my recollection is, and I think it's in the notes, is if you go to the recording that's online, you can go ahead and just go straight to that section and then see what was said, rather than having staff try to do detailed notes. So that was an efficiency thing.
I thought, because we actually had a
Action
talk about,
minutes.
you're right. We had to talk about the concept of action minutes a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the direction that we had taken.
Yeah, when you look at the report cold, it doesn't show that reference. So I'm
You mean it
going,
doesn't have a link?
yes,
So you're requesting that the link to the to the video be more prominent?
I think so.
It has a timestamp on it. I believe that's what that represents. The 103, so right behind Eric's name.
Yeah.
But we can-
Did I miss that?
Just maybe
Oh,
like
you're right. I'm
maybe like a
sorry. I
preamble.
apologize.
So it might just need a preamble saying, explaining that the timestamps are in the minutes.
I'm fine.
If there was the link in the agenda or in the meeting notes that took you right to the recording, that might be not a bad addition either.
Is it YouTube video?
I
I forget
think
what the nature
they're
of
on
the video
YouTube.
is. Because YouTube lets you add a tag for where to start.
Did Catherine have her hand up?
No, she spoke already.
My only question was, if who's going to sign these? Is it still Michael Fox, the first co-chair on the minutes signing? That was actually since we're just voted for new chairs, are we going to have to redo the minute notes?
No, we take a pen and we cut it and we put his name on it.
There.
You have the pen?
Across the page.
All right. So we have a motion and a second
And vote.
vote.
All those in favor?
All those in favor of accepting the meeting minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Public comment. There's a preamble here, but we're going to do 3 minutes per person, 30 minutes. We have some people in the room. Does anybody like to make any comments? No? Is there anyone online that would like to make any comments?
I have one if I could have a couple of minutes for just a couple seconds. Did want to bring everybody's attention that we are having a single lane closure tomorrow on the northbound lanes of the Hood River Bridge. That'll be in between 10 a.m. and noon, and that's to support work associated with the replacement project. Michael or someone may bring up the details later, but this closure is needed to complete the installation of a tide sensor and a weather station, and there will be flaggers on site to manage traffic safety. Travelers should expect delays of anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes, and again, that's between 10 a.m. and noon. And we certainly appreciate the public's patience during this work. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
And Mike, will you be able to explain the nature of the title sensor later? Okay, great.
No other comments, Amy? I'm not seeing anybody up there. Okay. Executive reports. I'm going to go back to the previous co-chairs to see if there are any reports that they'd like to make. Jake?
I got out of it.
Me too. You got time of those.
Right. That puts Mr. Shannon up.
Yep, so we have a summary on the front page. Umatilla has their board meeting tonight, so we have a meeting with them tomorrow, so we're expecting to hear on their signing of the MOA. If that goes positive, which their first two committee briefings went positive, then we should find out tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get a MOA signed
And
tomorrow.
you're going to be expected to sign that.
I understand that.
More excitement, please.
So PDB, some of the focused areas, and James is going to talk a little bit more about this, is the Washington shoreline, and access is one of the key things that we're working on right now. Right-of-way staff is also creating right-of-way maps. We will be using those to brief Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Babbitts on their future discussions with the port. We're also, looks like we will be getting the first week of February the Yellow Book appraisal from our 6F. So once we get that, we'll go through that document and see what that says, and then that'll give us some indication on the mitigation cost for the 6F impacts for the project. So in-water borings also are going to be starting here on still February 9th. So they'll start on the Oregon side. Hopefully by the time they get done with the Oregon borings, we will have the permits for them to move straight into the Washington side. We're also looking at access for the Washington on land borings in between the railroad and the water. There's two borings there. We're making sure we're staying outside of a Army Corps easement. Trying to make sure we get that defined on the ground. Right now it's GIS, and we want to make sure we know exactly where the lines are and where the borings are, so we're not inside that. If we can stay outside that easement, it allows us to do it now. If we have to do it in that easement, it's about a 6-month third permitting process to get access. So we're working on trying to get that outside of that.
Can I ask a question on that subject? Yes. So on the borings, I thought that the U.S. Coast Guard was the permitting authority. So you're saying that each state has a permitting authority in terms of doing the borings? Oregon
has its own permitting, and then Washington has its own permitting processes, and some of those require different levels of review. So we've got through all of the Oregon processes, and we need to get through the old Washington process.
Okay, so we're legally permitted to do the borings on the Oregon side of the river, which is out to the center channel.
Correct.
But not on the Washington side.
Not yet. It's in process, but there's one more review that we need to get for Washington.
What is the agency that does that?
There's a number of agencies that give us permits. Okay. I think DNR and Christie's on. I think DNR is the last one that we're waiting for.
Department of Natural Resources.
Department of Natural Resources. Yep.
Washington Department of Natural Resources is the outstanding agency that owns some land on the Washington side and has not issued their right of entry yet.
So a question for you as well, Mike. On the Washington side, shore, 2 core samples that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And because of this access issue, you're thinking about moving those core samples just outside of that envelope, which would be roughly 15 feet away.
Yes.
Are you guys, when you do the surveys, are you going to show where you want to do it legally?
Yeah.
And are you also going to show the center of the other ones and how far away they truly are?
We can shoot those in if we.
I would urge you to shoot them in.
What are you worried about?
I want to just make sure that from what we can see, and it's not anywhere accurate, but you can at least see the contour of the land and 15 feet away. It's not going to cost you but half an hour to put the other 2 points in there and then stand back and look at it. Because if it's off the cliff, that's one thing. If it's similar ground, at least from the surface, it gives you a little bit more warm fuzzy that you're in the ballpark. You got to remember here that it's a 9-foot shaft. No, yeah, 9-foot shaft, and we're taking a 2-inch core sample in a 9-foot circle. The odds of you being homogeneous all the way across that 9 foot is probably subject to reality.
Yeah, it's as with anything, when you take the boring, the farther away you are from that hole, the more risk there is. Now,
Potential
variability in the distance you are away, right? So if we have to take it at 15 or 20 or 30, the farther you get away, the more risk there is. And that affects pricing and risk assumptions and risk allocation of, what the contractors.
The big thing is the rock elevation, wherever you hit good competent rock, because we have to drill between like 2.5 diameters, 9 foot times 2.5 into the rock. And then you have a rebar cage that's a fixed length. So you go build those rebar cages. They take a week to build each rebar cage or more. And then if you hit rock at a different place, you need a different length of rebar cage. You got to go rebuild the rebar cage and things like that. It might affect your design. So there's a level of risk.
But the real issue we're trading is we're moving over 15 feet, so we don't have to lose 6 months.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
good point.
And for an extra half an hour, I think it would give us a little bit of extra information just to show where those shaft centroids are.
Okay. Anything else?
Can I ask
Stormwater.
a question on this?
Yeah,
On the shafts. I was recently up in on a trip with an engineer who does a bunch of geotechnical work, and he was mentioning that that drilling these shafts is kind of one of the most common areas where we see or where he's seen change orders come in from the contractor, and that it's pretty common for the drill rigs to get stuck. And I'm curious if I'd be curious to learn a little bit more about sort of the nature of those change orders, and if doing additional drilling helps us mitigate. I could assume that if we drill a hole and we say it's sand and it ends up being rock, and that drives the boring to take longer, then that becomes on us for the change order. But do we end up with significant mitigation potential for change orders if we do additional borings, or is this fairly standard and both in the sort of the necessitation of change orders and kind of how we're approaching the borings?
James, you want to take that one?
Yeah. Can't wait to hear the answer.
Yes. Ben, there's a whole long list of reasons why there could be change orders with rock, and borings and things like that. I mean, one of them you hit on is if the borings show that it's sand and then in fact it's actually rock, that's a big thing, that the elevation at which you hit the rock is then a function of how deep you have to drill, and then it's also a function of the design. So if those are in different places, then that constitutes usually a change. Those are some of the big things, but definitely some of the most risky work that is on, from a design point of view and a constructability point of view on a bridge like this is the foundations. And there's just so many different things and so many complications that could go wrong in them.
The other one that I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you take a look at the type of rock that we've got in the general area, it's a lot of this fragmented volcanic columns. And when you just look at the cliffs, you can see those columns coming up. And if you happen to hit a column that's halfway demolished anyway or fractured, that has a big impact on your design of your foundation to be able to consider that. And some of it you'll find in the core sample. But remember, 2 inches out of 9 foot diameter, the odds are it's not going to be homogeneous all the way across. We're going to have to deal with it anyway. That it just gives you an indication of kind of what kind of formation you've got and kind of where you're going to hit rock for the depth. But much below that, 2 inches out of 9 feet, you're still going to be guessing.
So just in really simple terms, the way that I understood this whole discussion was, if you think back to when we did the first core samples a while back, we discovered that the bottom was someplace entirely different than we thought, which made major changes in the nature of those pilings and piers. And what we're talking about now is questions of relatively small variations. We're not going to discover that it's 100 feet deeper.
The big difference here now is that when we took the sampling a couple of years ago, we did the best we could as far as where to take them. We've got actual physical locations now for the piers, and we're going to those exact positions to see locally.
That's my point. But once we know what the depth is on each of them, we then, when we know what the sample says, we're not going to then find that when we go with the 9 foot boring and go down, have this 9.5 foot wide hole, we're not going to discover, oh my God, there's another 100 feet there. We may discover some small differences, right?
That's
I can't say that. Have you seen pictures out in the river of Shalila Falls?
Yeah, I understand, but those are eroded areas, right? Those areas have been subject to major erosion.
But it's full of water right now. It looks okay. It's not to say that we're not going to have something similar, even with a 9 foot diameter, that you could have. You could be on an edge of one of those drop offs into a pool. You won't know it until you start drilling.
So, but we've done a number of things to mitigate that. We've validated the holes. We're the pier sizes. We've come through and we've targeted our drill holes for those. If we see something weird when we start pulling them up, we have a contingency already allocated so that we can go back and drill some additional holes to see if we can get enough information to verify it ourselves. So, I mean, out of how many piers, I can't remember how many we're doing now, 20, 40 some odd. And we've got one that we're going to make a deviation on to save 6 months. I think that's
we're actually not moving the piers. We're just moving where the sample is going to be taken.
Right.
We may, if we find out something there that's unique, we may go back and do an additional hole closer to the pier, or we may move the pier to where the boring is so that we know better. And we'll make those decisions when we gain more information.
Where the information may be consistent among the last 15 borings that we do, and you feel pretty good about it.
So I guess the nature of my question was like, just given the risk and the uncertainty, like should we be considering doing more borings than we would typically, or are we already doing that?
I think we're already doing that, Ben, in the sense that as they do the borings, if they see something that raises alarms to the geotechs, they have the option to do additional borings.
Mhm. And we're currently doing 2 per hole, is that right? Or 2 per
We're doing
boring?
one per shaft.
Okay.
One per footing right now, right?
Per shaft. One at every shaft.
So like at the four shaft
You're
footings, I
doing
think
four.
are we doing 4 or 2?
You're doing one at every shaft.
So just for perspective, like what would the additional cost be if they were going to go and do 2 per shaft and, space them out, whatever is the appropriate distance from center?
$1 million more.
Yeah, Ben, this is Mike. I'll give you my honest opinion. Out of a 9-foot diameter shaft, we're doing 2 inches per each boring. Doing 4 inches per boring is about equal to doing a 2-inch boring. When you look at the overall area, I think 1 is probably appropriate unless that 1 hits one of the cliffs that could be there. I think this is going to be a risk that we're just going to have to assume until we really start drilling the shaft out there. It's going to be a risk until you really, really see over that 9-foot section what's really going to happen. I think one per shaft is probably good enough, but there's still a risk there.
Thanks for entertaining it.
Are you comfortable for now?
Are you asking me? Oh, I have no idea. I'm just, the reason I'm bringing it up is just because I've heard about this sort of cliff. This isn't the first time that we've talked about this and talked about our site being sort of abnormal. And to me, it seems like, Mike Fox has just mentioned that, that this is probably one of the riskiest parts of the project. So I'm just asking the question from, the more of a sort of a finance and risk management perspective, just to say, like, is it worth trying to get additional information early, so that we can better understand our conditions or have a higher likelihood of being able to adjust before we end up with some level of depth into a shaft, and finding issues.
Yeah, my personal experience with this, Joe. So I think that we've been notified as to the fact that there is a real risk here. I think we know and understand that. I will simply share that with the last project I worked on, which is the Mitchell Point Tunnel, the new Mitchell Point Tunnel. We did the geotech boring and then proceeded with the construction and discovered that it was nothing like the boring. Absolutely, the borings turned out to be entirely worthless. And the entire project had to be changed based on that. But it was a tunnel. We had a large contingency, and we dealt with it.
So again, if I may, what I think I would suggest we do is that we get Kiewit in the engineering construction committee over the next some month or so to give us a talk about as they start drilling and they find oh man, what's your options? Or what's your preset of options that you're going to be planning for if it is not what you expected?
But we've had some conversations both between, if geotech again is in somewhat the eye of the beholder of the geotech. We've asked our geotechs and theirs to get together and do just that, of looking at what constitutes needing to do additional borings, because we do have the allowance. And what I don't want to get is, once we get out there and start drilling, I don't want to wait 6 weeks while everybody decides whether or not we need to do another one. Let's come up with, hey, if we see this difference, we're going to go do another boring so that we can make that decision quickly. So they've had those conversations.
I guess what I would, not to pile on, but I would add to the end of this that after the boring is done, if there is anything that has been discovered that leads to the expectation that there'll be a significant cost effect on the bridge. Remember, we had a lot of controversy over this the last time. I, for one, was not at all happy with the way that that was handled. We've seen it handled even worse with the interstate bridge placement, is that the right name now?
Yeah.
With the interstate bridge replacement, it's caused huge headaches for them in terms of not properly communicating and sharing the knowledge, the imperfect knowledge. I understand engineers want perfect knowledge, so don't want to share something when it's imperfect. But we really need to make sure that any knowledge that we gain in this process that hints or states that we're going to have a change needs to be shared.
Yep.
Okay. So maybe we can close that talk with, do you have other topics there?
The only other big one is the stormwater and hydraulics. We're getting into that now with the collection systems and where to put ponds. You know, when you take a bridge that has no stormwater and you now start collecting it, it becomes a concern when you have to put that into ponds. So the Oregon side is not too bad. There's enough space over there to put a pond of discharge, although it is a new discharge point because there's no discharge point today. On the Washington side, it is a little more challenging because we have to put it between SR 14, the existing bridge, and the railroad. And there's some offsets there that are challenging. So they're continuing to evaluate that and see what they can do. And there's some options to divert some water to make it smaller to fit things in. But just it's another concern area that we're still working through, is trying to figure out how to fit stormwater ponds.
Are we treating water or just storing?
Treating.
Storing and treating.
And controlling how much gets discharged.
And last meeting, you talked for a while about the snow removal. You're still working on that.
Well, I did find out that you are allowed to push it over. It's not, you try to not do that, but there's nothing that says you're not allowed to do that.
You found out from
what? From WashDOT.
Okay, but we don't know about Salmon Safe yet.
No, I did not ask them. We asked them about some of the stormwater issues and they were okay with the way we were approaching stormwater. I didn't ask them about that.
And I wonder about the tribes also.
Yeah, I think some of it's going to come down to the treatments and what you're treating it with, to how much of an impact it would have, and what their considerations would be.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have anybody on for the legal report? So I'm going to skip that one. Partner updates. FHWA, ODOT, WashDOT. Anybody else? Comments they'd like to offer?
I don't really have any updates. I just that we're still working on that service agreement.
Okay.
So.
Great. Thank you, Rob. Okay, we'll just keep moving right along. We have the consent agenda.
Eric,
Invoices.
government relations or no? Oh, sorry, verbal second meeting. My bad. Never mind.
I'm sorry. Dan.
Yes, sir.
I missed you. I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem.
I can't turn around that far anymore. I used to be able to.
Well, this will be quick. At the last board meeting, we got legislative session previews from both our Oregon and Washington lobbyists. So the Washington session is now in its third week, working through policy bills with their first major cutoff happening on February 4th. So that session is scheduled to continue until March 12th. On the Oregon side, they'll get kicked off this coming Monday, February 2nd. And that will be a 35-day legislative session. So at the federal level, it's been quiet in terms of bridge investment program award timeline. No new news there. Of course, we continue to stay in touch with our elected officials at the federal, state, and local levels, share good news, and all news when we have it. So we will be introducing our new co-chairs to all of our elected stakeholders.
I asked a question. Have you analyzed, or someone analyzed whether there'll be any potential effect of a partial government shutdown at the federal level, anything related to this bridge project?
My understanding is that the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Appropriations Bill is passed and I believe signed.
Right.
So things in the things in the transportation space should continue.
Right.
I think even during the last government shutdown, a lot of federal highways functions continued because they're funded through the Highway Trust Fund.
Sure.
So I don't think a partial government shutdown would affect our project.
Is it
much?
FHWA, it would not. Christy, I don't know if you're still on, as whether any anticipations of any other agencies being impacted. Permitting agencies.
I forget which agency is under which appropriation, right?
Yeah, we don't have any specific details at the moment, but I will say in the last federal shutdown, this project was affected because we needed the attention of the Army Corps, who were all on furlough. And that may happen similarly.
Which for us, the immediate concern would be the in-water permit on the Washington side, right?
That's a state
DNR.
permit.
DNR.
So
That
that
was the
one,
question.
She said this is state permit.
Oh, okay. Okay, so should be no impact to us.
no, I think there would be impacts. I just don't know exactly what. I'll say that we are making some applications to some federal agencies in February, and we want their attention. And if they're not in their seats, we won't get it. So,
What about
no,
specifically being able to drill in the Washington water?
we're only talking about drilling in Washington.
Yeah, if we have a shutdown, will it affect our ability to move from Oregon to Washington or affect that final permit that we need?
Oh, on that topic, since we're waiting for a state permit, I'm sorry if I confuse things. Since we're waiting for one permit, which happens to be a state permit, the federal government shouldn't have any effect on us. I will say, however, we do have a big lift for the project itself. And that was really what I was referring to.
Thank you,
I'm glad
Chrissy.
to ask any questions. I'll be glad to share when we have more information once we get it.
It sounds like we'll have lots of little holes, but no bridge piers.
Looking this up now, the energy and water and interior and environment funding bills have passed and been signed into law. So I imagine most of these permit plans have run through those agencies.
The Army Corps is part of
Energy and
it's energy and water. Okay, interesting.
Anything else?
sir.
Before you move on, question from, and maybe Carrie, have we heard anything on the bid? Any movement whatsoever?
Nothing new.
Hold on here.
Okay,
I'm
not okay,
there.
but
Now I
okay.
am.
Oh,
No, we haven't. And I would just say once again, if I hear, you all will be the second to hear, and it will be within seconds of me hearing. So I do think that the government shutdown could potentially slow things down at FHWA. Last time they are not necessarily affected by the government shutdown because they're funded through appropriated money, but last time around it definitely slowed them down in their ability to respond and answer questions and things like that. And the process at this point is political, and so people are preoccupied with political matters that don't have anything to do with construction grants, unfortunately.
Thanks, Carrie. All right, invoice approvals now. Thank you.
Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. So committee reports. Catherine, I may want to lean on you a little bit for this so I can stay organized here, but maybe so you can think about it for a minute, we can go to Arthur.
we have nothing to add.
There's your other engineering committee member who's no longer.
Oh, that's right.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
Just helping out.
Yeah, would have taken me 2 or 3 meetings to figure that out, but now, yeah.
I'd find you.
But maybe Catherine can add.
Oh, no, I defer to our chair.
Free chair.
I can see how this is gonna. Okay, very briefly, we had some sessions on some various budget reports that you're going to start seeing in the future. we've been working on these for several months. Sean Weeks, I don't know if everybody knows Sean. Sean's new to the project from HNTB. He is coming out of their project controls organization, and he's been working hard at getting the financial reports kind of realigned and getting it to where it's a little easier to read and maybe a little
Digestible.
Yeah, yeah. But we have high expectations that this next month we'll be able to show where we are and in more detail of where we are.
This is related to your question of requesting aged
invoices,
et cetera. Yeah.
Yes, and several other types of reports. The other thing we looked at is Kiewit's project report, progress report for the month of December. And I don't want to put James on position here, but if he would like to give an executive high level, where are we schedule wise, cost wise in phase 1B? If not, I can give you what I see out of your report.
Yeah, I mean, schedule wise, we're on schedule. If you have an early start schedule and a late start schedule, we're following the late start schedule. Couple of reasons behind that, and I've asked the team to kind of illustrate that for the next month, because there's a lot of geotechnical work that we planned on doing, like starting last year, November timeframe, that has been pushed to start now in February. So a lot of that has gotten pushed. We're making adjustments in our schedule and in the engineering and design schedule to make sure that doesn't postpone or delay the final document that we need to submit. So the design team's working really hard to get that done. And so right now, all that's on schedule to be done on time. Cost wise, we're doing well on cost. Overall, we're spending the number of man hours that we thought we were going to spend, and we're earning the amount of budget we think we're supposed to earn. We're just actually the dollars per man hour that we're spending on it is less than what we were originally thinking. So that's a good thing overall. So.
And just to add to that, if you look at the report and you look at that last month, it's a little early days yet, but if you keep going like what you're doing, you're projecting that you would underrun your budget, not including the allowance, by $2.5 million, which is a good thing, as long as we make the schedule. One concern that I have is that historically, if you follow the late curve, you will end up not meeting the schedule. And I know we've talked at great length on that, and I think we watch it very closely for the next 2 months. If that thing comes off the late curve and starts moving back towards your plan curve, and I feel very much more comfortable that we're in good shape.
And now is the right time to do it because we're 5 months into an 18-month. So we've got runway to recover. So great.
You give a report.
I guess I can give a very tiny report, which is to remind everybody that Jake and I have not yet gotten the legal training on the right-of-way stuff. So my understanding is the smartest thing to do is don't talk to either of us about anything. Right, because we don't know what we're not supposed to talk about.
We're getting the maps together. We want to get the right-of-way maps together. So what we're doing is doing maps by agency, so that when you go to talk to a certain agency, you've got parcels and you can talk about the whole package. Fourth grade example, there's a lot of pieces and parts to that.
Yep.
So we want to get that package together. So you've got all the background, Washington, Oregon, everything at once. So you'll see that in the next week or two. We'll have that package and get you guys.
You're patiently waiting.
Yes. I'm so excited.
Looking forward to it.
So I think that's it. New business.
No new business.
There's no unfinished business. There's no new business.
All the new business was all the previous item 3.
Okay. Struggling here. So informational items, you want to go through those, Mike, or you
Dan,
got
do you have
somebody?
anything on key project messaging that you wanted to talk about or hit on?
Nothing new.
Where are we on the year-end report?
So that will be coming out to each individual commissioner today. You'll get a draft version of that. So we're going to do a blind copy so that everybody's not responding to it together. We'll give it a week to review it, get us back to us, and then we'll make edits to it, send it back out for a final version. The intent is to have it finalized by the second week in February.
It will go out late tonight.
Yeah. Making some last week, so.
Okay. So you just want to go through those, or do you want me to
So
highlight which ones?
the next two things, the North Shore access and bridge monitoring, James is going to give us an update on that.
Can I share my screen? Okay. So the North Shore access is really this piece of land in here. That's what I want to talk about. This piece of land is kind of landlocked in a sense where you have the railroad on the north side, the river on the south, the TFAS property here, and you know, a long way to nowhere on this side. And so really, like, you can imagine the concrete, steel girders, rebar, all that sort of stuff, and that the personnel that we have to get into this area. You know, there's a couple of different options that we've looked at, and want me to go through those different options. One option was to like build our own personal railroad crossing. Short story is the railroad said no thanks, they would not like that. Another option that we're pursuing right now is an option using the existing controlled access across the railroad track here. If any of you have been down in this area, there's some constraints as you zoom in here that they have, like not really bollards, but some concrete in the middle of the roadway so that you can't just turn and go wherever you want. That's for the railroad crossing arm so that people don't see the railroad and then go around it. So one option that we're looking at here is being able to drive like a 40-foot trailer, semi truck, and turn, and then maybe go through the portion of the TFAS site. So there's some discussions that we're going to have with folks from the TFAS area next week. And then we've also talked to the railroad about, they have a 50-foot right of way off of the center line of their track, is not, it's using like this 25 feet on the outside of that and build a road along adjacent to and parallel to the railroad until we get down to that site. So that's something that we're actively pursuing right now. You can imagine that there's quite the process with the railroad to make that happen, but in discussions with them, they seem pretty amicable on that.
It seems like for them, they are very concerned about fires next to the railroad. So something where we're removing vegetation, replacing it with lots of gravel.
Yeah,
they may find that to be in their
They've been
benefit.
very positive about that option. Now we will have to work through FHWA and some reevaluation that wasn't studied, just to reevaluate some impacts. There were multiple parties that we have to get the nod from to go back and then talk through with FHWA the full permission to do it.
And then is there no option of access by water?
So then that's the easy way
there. Go back up to that intersection again for just a second. Okay, so coming across the railroad, one option is to do that loop that actually gets into the TFAS site, which means we would have to get approval to go do that, which we're looking at. The other option potentially is to get some kind of an agreement with that nursery and make a great big loop around that first building and then, yeah, come in and then kind of smooth out that turn a little bit and then go into that access road. Those are the kind of the two real options you've got there.
Yeah, and I think even going through the nursery, because what we've learned on we thought maybe we could make some modifications to those bollards and the piece in the middle is what makes it a quiet zone, so the railroad doesn't have to blow their horns going through there. Any modification at all to it, even temporary, is not allowed. So even if we went through the nursery site, we probably would still have to impact the very beginning of TFAS site to make it a park. So we thought maybe we could make some temporary modifications where we could open it, put it back, and railroad said no. If you move it at all, you violate the noise requirement.
Okay.
So I'm a little confused about the railroad saying that because it's the FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration, that sets those rules. So wouldn't they be the people to talk to see if there are any processes to do temporary changes?
We could follow up with them. BNSF has to move it as well in order to know when they do and don't have to sound their whistles. So
Right.
We haven't taken it above that. We're just taking it to BNSF for discussions.
Right. My point is, it's really easy for them to say, "Oh, don't touch that. It took us a long time to get here, and boy, they're impossible to deal with." That doesn't mean that
it can't be done.
It can't be done. They're just giving you the easiest answer.
Well, and we may have a better connection with HRWSBA at this point.
It's Federal Railroad Administration, FRA.
We're also counting on the railroad to let us use temporarily a piece of their right of way.
Right.
And so we definitely want to keep everybody on our good side.
I'm not trying to get her pissed. I'm saying that if we get them permission to do this, I'm sure they would.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having any problem. They're telling us, what they're really telling us is they don't think that it would be a reasonable process to get permission.
Yeah.
So then the other option that we're looking at, and I say other, but in addition to this roadway access, is access from the water. And I could turn on, I think, this. So this is the water levels, and anything like up in this area is really shallow, so shallow that with the equipment that they had here, they couldn't actually get into this. We've gotten that information since then, but from about this area to the land, we're going to need some sort of substantial structure to be able to drive concrete trucks and move girders and all sorts of stuff like that in. And so we're looking at either a trestle with like pipe pile, 36-inch diameter pipe pile, and like 40-foot spans going along this way to get to land, or some sort of a rock causeway.
We have a ton of photographs of that river bottom before the dam level was raised.
Yeah. So our baseline is based on a trestle going in. And so we've told Federal Highways that we can in fact build the bridge this way, but there's some options that you're looking at that could do the same thing at a much reduced cost.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that's unique about this area is the water is shallow, and there's a large portion of this that has a really thin layer of mud in it, and then you're into that bedrock that we're talking about. So if we're going to be like driving a pile down and you only go through like 5 feet of mud and then you hit bedrock, the pile is not very strong. It's wobbly and wants to fall over. And so what we're going to end up having to do to actually drive pile is drill a hole that you then shove the pile into. And so that's called like a down the hole hammer. So there's a drill bit that goes inside there, pulverizes the rock. Water lifted out the pulverized pieces of rock, and then we got to deal with that. And so most of this trestle would have to be utilize a method like that.
And that's built into the current cost estimates.
Yeah, that's built into the current cost estimate. And so
the cost risk there that we may or may not have enough money for that.
Yeah, a variation of that is built into the cost estimate. Say that. And then the other option that I believe is a lot more cost effective is to do some sort of a rock cost. And especially in a case like this where we're in very shallow water and we're into mud pretty quickly. So,
how far out are you coming, James? Is it right to where your subsurface?
So one of the things that we want to do when we get in here and do some geotechnical drilling is to put a couple of holes into this area too and see what we really got. But yeah, anything where they couldn't get, I think we're building either a trestle or a rock causeway somewhere out into this area.
So the idea with either one on the river side, down where your little hand is, you want to build some kind of an approach where you can take a concrete truck from the Oregon side, as an example, load it across, offload it on either a trestle or a causeway, and move it into position.
So at the end of the rock causeway or the end of the trestle, we're going to have I was thinking of a way to describe this, like a drawbridge you'd have to go over a moat almost. And so that the drawbridge would come and land on the barge that would be held there by the tugboat. You drive the trucks off. We'd need that on either side.
And the reason for that is even with that access road, the likelihood of being able to drive a fully loaded concrete truck down that road is probably iffy at best.
Yeah, it's pretty steep, very steep, and the girders are going to be enormous. 365 kips. So
big.
It's a big one. Yeah. So it's really two issues that your team is looking at. One is how do you build in that shallow portion of the river? What do you build off of? And two, is there access that can provide access to that structure other than just having to ferry across the river? And those are all opportunities to try to cut the overall costs down.
Right. James, don't we have, I thought we have plans for the original bridge. Wouldn't those show where they found rock or something that seemed like rock? So give us some idea of thickness of the sediments.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we think it's 5 feet deep and then you're into rock.
Okay.
So the other thing, while you got the picture there, it's a good picture to show the drilling equipment for those couple of holes that you're going to do in the next month or so. You're going to lift them off the current bridge, drop them over the side, and then up to the location.
So I'm going to tease Mike here a little bit. We like to gently lower things over the side.
Not drop.
But because we can't get in here and we don't have the access from the railroad yet, we don't have any trestle built or anything. Yeah, we're planning on setting up a boom truck on the bridge and then lowering in pieces of a small drill rig and assembling it down on the ground to do the boreholes.
That's the 2 borings we were just talking about moving potentially to go to other things.
What about asking a railroad to deliver material for you?
We talked about that a little bit and ruled it out. The rail line in here is a single rail line, and they're hauling pretty long loads through about every 20 minutes. I think it might be possible to get a couple of loads in that way, but then you also have to get something to remove the material off of the.
We could ask them if we could use one of their cranes.
Would their cranes even be rated to pick up that?
They probably have some that's good.
But these things, I mean, for what we're going to do with this boom truck, we're thinking it's like 600 pounds.
No, I meant,
no.
talking about the big girders lifting them off.
No, not the big girders.
Not that far away. No.
So, bridge monitoring?
So, bridge monitoring, since I have this up, so we're not distracted, I'm going to turn that off. There's a handful of different components of the bridge monitoring. One is there's some survey prisms and some tilt sensors that have already been installed on all of the piers where they need to be. There's also 2 total stations. So that's the actual piece of survey equipment that monitors the location. One of those is up on the Mount Adams Fruit Company, and another one is down in the SDS lumber yard. We have gotten power to those now. And then this week, the next 3 days, what we're going to be doing is first of all, we're going to be installing the weather station up on one of the towers there. That's what, as Kevin was talking about, the 5, 10, 15-minute closures are going to be for us to pull up with a truck, get the thing off and get it up on top. And then the tide sensors, we're going to install those. And then the other thing we're doing this week is making sure that we can there's an auto lock function. These prisms are 2 inches diameter, and you're trying to sight them in from something close to about a mile away. And so there's some auto lock function that we're working on. We talked about that earlier, so we have somebody flying in. One of the Frontier people from Colorado is coming in to help us get that auto lock function set up. And then the big thing is getting it all to communicate and get data onto the server that's located here in this building. So hopefully by the end of this week, all that gets wrapped up.
When you say tidal, do you mean the surface of the water, surface of the pool height?
Pool elevation, yeah. So all of that's going to tie in, and we'll have real-time data to see how the bridge moves in relationship to the wind, to the temperature, and the pool elevation.
Do you know at all what the pool elevation sensor looks like?
No, not yet, but
soon
I'm going to hold one in my hands.
So if you remember, one of the reasons for doing this is to get better information on history of winds and temperature, basically for construction of the new bridge and lifting loads up and when you do that and so on. That's one thing to set a price. The other thing that we did when we did this was we were assuming we were going to do some kind of at the time, a pile program, test program. Now it's drilled shaft and piles for your trestles, and see if we're going to do anything adverse to the current bridge. But at some point in time, it'd be interesting to know if we're still going to do that and when we're going to do it. What's that program going to look like?
So yes, that's something that's going to start being discussed in the task force meetings this week. It's on the agenda to get an idea of what that's going to look like. Good.
Christy talked to us a little bit, but is there an update on the environmental?
Do you have anything on the environmental that you wanted to add?
I can add just some observations. I think I mentioned before we were talking about the federal shutdown potentially. But regardless, what we're hoping is that we'll have 2 applications in, one to the U.S. Coast Guard, which is in pursuit of the bridge permit. And interestingly, that's one of the first applications and one of the last permits that we will receive. So it's got the longest lead time. And also we'll be submitting specifically to the Army Corps of Engineers for what's called a Section 408 permission. And what that is all about is in the project area are present federally owned civil works. And in order to do something in the vicinity of a civil work, the Army Corps wants to review what you're going to do, and then they issue basically a go-ahead, a permission. And then following that, other Army Corps issued permits are eligible to be reviewed. So we need to get this 408 review out of the way. So that one is starting up. We met with the Army Corps and with the Coast Guard last week and went over the schedule, and they gave us a thumbs up on the schedule. They think it's reasonable, which is very good to hear from them. Yeah, so I think that's the most important from the permitting. There's lots and lots going on. If anybody wants to talk about all the details, I'd be really glad to fill them in. But those are the important things. We're starting now to actually get permits into agencies' hands over the next few weeks. Thanks.
Thank you, Christie. Catherine? Your hand up. Thank you.
Christy, really quick question. When you spoke with the agencies, was the potential government shutdown brought up at all? And or do you think it was appropriate? If not, but are you concerned about just the 408 review being impacted by the government shutdown? Over. Thank you.
It's no problem. Yes, of all of the agencies that we work with, and we have plenty of them, the 408 program is really special in that it only exists to help folks who are coordinating with those existing civil works. And as a result, the 408 program is extremely underfunded from the federal side already. And any kind of threat of shutdown puts most of those folks on furlough as a first priority. So yeah, we would probably see impacts immediately if there was a shutdown. When we didn't talk about it, by the way, it was a very heavy meeting. We had a big agenda and a large group, so we kind of stuck to the agenda.
Thank you, Christy.
So I would offer up, Sean, that's something to note for a huge trend. If we get delayed because of the shutdown, it could, not saying it will, it could have a substantial increase in cost for the project.
December revenue.
It's not on. So it's in the packet.
So the packet's all there. Everything's kind of moving along as expected with small deviations. So
the good news is we got about what, 8.7 million dollars in the kitty.
Yep.
Certainly going in the right direction.
That's good news.
Just as a reminder, this is for securing a TIFIA loan.
Yeah.
So again, this is derived from the last increase on bridge tolls, and they've been moved over into an authority account, and it's allocated for allowing us to qualify for a TIFIA loan. We're keeping our hands off of it
just now. And then we already talked about the annual report. You said late today. Okay. He's nodding like he's nervous, like maybe he wants to get out of here so he can get it done.
I'm waiting for our QC person to finish it.
Okay. Sorry.
If I may.
I think I'm done.
Got a question? Since you asked, did we ever finalize the last payment for that we were talking with the feds over? Are we making any progress?
The build grant?
Yeah, the build, closing out the build.
He sent all the information again, and he has all the information, and he is continuing to validate the rates.
So he has a validator rates now. He's in the next phase about like the profit margin. Who decided it was a fair and reasonable profit margin? So when the port was procuring HNTV contract, they used the Arab, and Arab independently calculated a fee based on the calculation Oregon DOT uses. So I'm obtaining that document, and then we'll send it to FHWA and show them this is how it was determined fair and reasonable when Port was awarding the contract to HNTV. So that's, I think, hopefully the last one he's asking. But we are just step by step now.
Right, but at least there's still back and forth. We're not just stopped, right? And how far are we now? How many months?
Raise grant is going great. It is less than a month or somewhere around that point. But the last package that we are waiting for is a final payment for build grant. And since the FHWA person is working on somebody else's work, he's want to make sure that he wants to make everything's tied up. So I'm tying up, so he's doing that.
I thought the last meeting we had here, we requested that we include into this report standard,
Yeah,
an aging report of all of our invoices.
So that's been created. It's in the
monthly
report.
report.
It's in the budget, the monthly budget report. So the first round of that will go through the EAC
Next,
committee and the finance committee next month,
okay,
and then it comes to the board. That's when
Reimbursement, right?
Reimbursement payment to us.
Yeah. It's the time that it takes reimbursement for each grant cycle. So we've got it. It's set up. We're tracking it. We've got a picture of it. So it'll be in the next budget report, and then it'll start being reported out quarterly to the board.
just kind of a comment here. Federal Highways, the individual we're talking about, is also assigned to IBR. I don't know if you've had a chance or have you seen this. This is the IBR report on their cost of $13 to $17 billion. When you read through it, which I have, it is a huge, complex, 29 real project. Very concerned at some point in time, the chair gets to go talk to Federal Highways. I'm very concerned that Federal Highways is not staffed enough to be able to do both of these projects. Frankly, I don't think they're probably staffed to do the one project there. And I think the longer we go without getting additional support here, the worse it's going to get.
They would agree with you.
So I think at some point in time, we're going to have some discussions, maybe as far as back to headquarters, to express our concerns and get it on the record, number one. Number two, start discussing some options. Maybe we're going to have to fund people that work in Federal Highways to work on our projects. But we're not going to be able to survive with the support we've got now as we push forward out of design.
Is this a regional office or is it a
Regional.
and what is the region?
Bergen division.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, they're all the same way. I mean,
Yeah.
all the way across the country, every FHWA division office was under the same thing. They lost 60% of their staff and their workload did not get any smaller. So hopefully somebody is working on figuring out how to staff these understaffed agencies and how they can be supported, because it's not just a
design
project issue.
There's a $400,000 outstanding bill that we have paid already, but we paid it out of a loan from the port. Okay. That's not what we really meant to do with that particular money. But we can do it today. But when we're in construction, when we're spending 10 to 15 to 17 million a month, we're going to exhaust our ability to do that.
Oh, yeah.
So probably part of the discussion is when do you, I mean, we've been having that soft discussion already. At some point, it's going to have to be a hard, more pointed discussion about, okay, so if this isn't working, how do we find solutions? Because we won't have the cash flow to continue on.
Yes. And that's the reason for this aging report. Today, I think we can make it. And it seems like the new invoices on new or relatively new funding sources, they're able to turn it around.
And we've got some options within the new grants to try to help with that on paying on invoice and things like that. It's this final closeout, and I think the build grant is somewhat of an anomaly on this, hopefully. They're making payments on raise grant quickly. The build grant, you had a change in staff, you had a change in agency, right? It used to be a port grant that got moved to the Bridge Authority. They've had a challenge in getting enough information and getting a new person comfortable with $4.5 million of invoices that he never saw. So he's getting comfortable with that and where it came from. And when they close these grants is when they get an audit. And they want to make sure when they get that audit that they don't have any findings on their audit. So he's trying to do his due diligence to make sure that happens.
But I think it's worthy that we consider and talk about this, because if and when this actually goes, their workload is going to go up exponentially.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All of these things are gated by the ability to get through the federal grant process. So the same thing that is resulting in the shortage of resources here is related to our inability to get answers on the BIP process, right?
Yes and no. I believe on IBR, there's a whole bunch more pressure politically in support of that one than our project. So I think the likelihood of at least major pieces of this going forward is greater for IBR as far as obtaining funding. But that's just my
I
opinion.
could make the opposite argument.
Sorry.
So we'll keep watching that one. We have upcoming action items on here. Do we need to go through that? I think we talked about most of them, at least.
Stuff.
I just one, if I could just comment, the cybersecurity policy discussion. I do want to make sure that we move into a stance of having an annual cybersecurity audit, and in our first year, understandably not doing that. I think it's time to be talking about that.
Anything for the good of the order?
Yeah, Mike, do you need anybody for your high school visits coming up?
Not right now. We're still working on coordinating the dates and stuff. We've not got anything set up right now with any of the states, but we're looking to tap Kiewit and the labor unions. So we're working on getting presentations and stuff together, and then waiting on responses back from the school systems.
Thanks.
Dick, anything?
No.
I'll just bring up the WSU landscape architecture class will be here the first week in February. They are visiting a number of areas through the gorge and using that for developing ideas for their final thesis project for senior year. So they'll be here in the office for one full morning. We'll be talking to them, and we've also invited the Gorge Commission over to talk to them as well. So,
can they design a swell for us?
That's what told them, like, free labor.
The state has a similar organization, and both the city and the county, we've gotten some good work out of them.
Yeah. That's great.
Very creative and very creative people. You get a whole bunch of creative people thinking about a problem and come up with some really interesting ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Next meeting, Monday, February 9th. Same place, same time. Thank you.
Good job. Photo now?
Thank you.
Play that.
We adjourn.
Are we going to do a photo today?
Yeah.
Yeah.